started to do some research, and so before I start buying all that stuff and everything, I want to have an idea of because I'm not too familiar with how to do that. So if a few people have ideas, please write comments. Be mostly appreciated. And so right now I'm trying to prepare as two things. So whatever people call bug out bag, I call it on my my 1 week bag, and my bug in would be my 3 month supplies. And so on my bug out bag, I would have rice, olive oils, dry beans, dry vegetable, quinoa, and supplement with catch. So if I fish, or if I am able to trap anything or whatever as I'm going, or even during if I scavenge and I find at grocery stores that has some tuna, whatever, I would supply. But again, it would be for a 1 week supply, mostly of the other stuff. And the reason I'm going with that is that it's not too expensive to carry. It's long shelf life, not like the 20-25 years. Not too expensive, and also it's pretty much what I eat on a regular basis, and very easy, and doesn't take like a lot of stuff and everything. Because a lot in the morning, or like, so as I prepare my breakfast, I can boil my water, put that in my bag, and so that whatever I got during the walk that I have to do or something, I get somewhere, it's all prepared. In my bug-in, so in the house, I have a meat freezer that have a lot of meat. Usually I try to keep like a month or a month and a half of supplies in there. Cans, have a whole pantry full of that. Again, beans, rice, quinoa, because that's what I buy on a regular basis and eat on a regular basis as well, and pasta. So whatever I have in the house. So whether that would be using for cooking, on the bug out, I have a ember lit stove. So because it can use multiple different source of cooking. If I have alcohol, I could make like a little alcohol stove. If I have like woods or whatever I have, I could cook with that. As well as I was thinking, having a the propane bottle, like those green ones, and I'll have a picture in the next slide, and those little stove that you can click on it, and so this part would be more like if again, because I would go in my philosophy of surviving, I guess, or of bugging out, would be to go from an urban setting to a suburban, and then maybe in the wilderness. Well, during that time, I would be in the city. There's a lot of time. I mean, we have a lot of trees and stuff I could probably use for my emberlit. But if I'm stuck in a area where there's nothing, I don't know, I'm in an industrial zone and there's nothing to use for fuel, then I could use the propane. And yeah, so the propane bottle could use at least 2 or 3 meals with the little stove on the top, and as well as the refill adapter, which you'll see on the next, as my backup for all of this, because obviously if it's raining, which it does a lot over here, I could use solar, but if solar comes out, then I could probably use this and save on the fuel. In my bargain, mostly is barbecue. I refitted my, because I used to use those little green propane bottles for my barbecue, but now that I'm cooking a lot with it, I'm using those big bottles, so that would last me for more than 3 months, which is my preparation. And if for whatever reason the barbecue stopped working, I ran out of propane, or this malfunction or something, then my backup would be solar. And again, if I still have my bug out bag, then I could start using my supplies over there. So then my billet stove and everything. But I'm trying to be in an area where if I'm bugging in, I would be bugging in. That means I shut down everything in and out. I try not to go out, and so billet stove. That means I would have to go and grab some stuff to use for cooking and stuff, and so that would be a little bit harder. But although I would still be able to use like olive oil or something to use the stove as a backup. So. Um, and this is what the adapter was talking. And so right over here, what it is basically those big propane tank, and then on those green tank you have the smaller one. And so this little adapter wouldn't take much weight, and that tank doesn't take much. And carrying this little adapter, it's not much weight, and actually can give me a little bit more of can give me a little bit more openness, because I can refill my bottle. And so this would be my what I call my protocol power down for food. And so basically what I was looking for is something that can save the food from the freezer. And living in a condo, it's very hard. I cannot really have a generator or anything like this that I would be able to put the freezer on it or something like that. Also, we'd like to save the food from the fridge, and so if the power goes down, then I lose all that stuff. Conserve the food when on the road, because again, if I catch a few fish one day and not for a few days, I would like to be able to conserve it some way. Something that is compact, because obviously as a bug-in, or even in a bug-in situation where you would have to keep stuff in and hide it up, and don't have much space to keep things in. So I would like to have it compact so that I can put it away, and then when the disaster happens, then pull it out. Not dependent on fuel or electricity, again, because electricity obviously because you're in a power down, but fuel as well, because I mean you can run down that thing since it's your kind of your backup. Like, and not dependent on sun, because here it's hit and miss. Like right now we have like very unusual summers, so we have a lot of sun, but a lot of time it rains, especially in the winter it rains, and so I cannot really be dependent on the sun too much. But sometimes it does, sometimes it's not. But if it would be floods because there's too much rain, then depending on the sun is not a really good thing. But it's a good backup, because I mean you do have a few days of sun and everything. So if 80 or 90% of the time I use my system A, and the 10% of the time when I have other stuff I can use my system B, so like depending on the sun, then that means I can use those when the days are sunny and everything, and conserve my resource. So how this thing works is that, sorry, I had to kind of smush it so to get in the one slide, but so if the power down, it's either bug in or bug out. So we'll go with the bug in first. And so what I would like to do is conserve 2 days of food in the cooler. So I carry a cooler here, and so I would carry for 2 days of stuff, and you'll see why the 2 days. And then I would cut my vegetables that are all in the fridge, and all this stuff that that needs basically power to last longer. Cut meat from the fridge for jerky. So if I have anything that is unfrozen or anything, then I would transfer that in jerky, because I cannot refreeze that stuff. And then use my meat and put it in a brine, and then we'll talk a little bit more about how to do it, but this is the protocol. And then the bug out, if I have time, so like let's say I know an hour in advance or something, then I can start cutting the meat from the freezer and putting again in the brine. But if you know, it's a last minute, I have 5 minutes to get out and pick up whatever, then I take my bulb with my food that is already in, and then if I catch some food, then either dry it, which I'll talk a little bit how, and or brine. So that would be like my protocols basically. So this is what I was doing a few research, and I came onto this. But again, I have not a lot of knowledge about this and stuff. And I mean, you know, sometimes things seems like a good idea and they're not so much. But this thing, I never heard of it, or I never saw any reviews or anything like that. But it looks like it's a food dehydrator that you hang, and your food dries, and it looks like, you know, it protects from the flies and stuff, and it takes 2 or 3 days for this. So that's why everything that I have on my fridge for the next 2 or 3 days, I would pick up the food that I have there, use that as my first cooking as I'm drying all my vegetables and stuff. The other advantage of this thing, as I was reading on their website and stuff, is that some of those trays you can actually grow stuff. So you can actually make like wheatgrass and things like that, by using like the bottom part right over here, and if you want, on foodpantry.com, and there's a video and they explain all that and stuff. So yeah, so it dry foods naturally, 90% retain. There's it's a double as a seed powder and wheatgrass growing trays. Dries food naturally without electricity. So again, it kind of fix a lot of stuff, and it has a lot of advantage, I find, because now I could just hang out and if you look on the pictures and again on the website, it's it's almost just that thick, because the white part right over here clamps with the other white part, and all this just like smushed together. So it's very compact, very useful. Seems like a good idea. So that's mostly that part. That if any of you have any ideas or suggestions and stuff, be on that one. And so why the brine? Is because it seems like reading a little bit about all this stuff again, in the 18th century cooking, I get a lot of YouTube video on that, and they were talking about how salt can be used and everything, so it's a very easy commodity to use. The other part as well is that because I'm surrounded by seawater, even if I would have to produce salt, so let's say I ran out of salt, it's easy for me to create salt. So it seemed for me that it's kind of an endless supply. So for whatever reason, let's say I ran out of salt or I lose my salt or everything, because my main approach is brine, that means I don't have to use fuel and everything. From the research I did, the small research I did and read and everything, it seems like it can serve a lot of the meat for a long period of time, like we're talking like a few months here. So it seems like a good approach, very easy, low cost, doesn't carry a lot of weight, and all you need basically is salt, a little bit of sugar, and it's very easy to have that and stuff. So what I was thinking is that, whatever, but for the house, that's what I would use is this system. For the road, what I was thinking is to use an Nalgene bottle. Again, wide mouth, it's very easy to put food because you cut it in a little piece and stuff, weigh nothings. And I could carry 2 bottles. What I was thinking about is 2 bottles. That way, you don't mix like fish with other meat and things like that. And so, what I was carrying, one with the salt inside, the other one with sugar or brown sugar and everything. There's different recipes, whatever recipe I decide to do, and in the rest of the space that there is between that bottle and the other bottle, to have products again to disinfect the Nalgene bottle and whatever else I need to do a sufficient brine. And so now I have 2 bottles full of my supplies, and then if I catch something or whatever, my salt and everything would be in dry bags, and so I can get that dry bags out and then put my meat in there, fill that with, so it would be a white brine, by the way, because I saw like, some people do like the dry, but for me it would be a wet, and so I put like liquid in there, purify my water, put that inside, clean there, cut my piece and put that in there, so it's very easy to carry and stuff. So that was my the presentation, and this was pretty much like my ideas that I had. So if you have any suggestion or comments, please leave it behind. Again, I'm not too familiar with this. It's kind of a new concept. I've been reading stuff mostly on the internet and things, so that's not like my forte or my expertise. But if anyone has any suggestion, or if it thinks it's a totally ridiculous idea or whatever, just write that down so I can have a little bit more of your opinion, and talk to you soon.